Stay. Hi guys. Welcome to lesson 7, concept development video. Bronson and I are still at the school recording videos. Oh yes, Bronson. So today in lesson 7, we are going to be working on rounding our decimals to any place value. And we're going to be using our vertical number line to help us. So let me get my pen and I'll actually be able to show you that. Our vertical number line like that, right? And we're going to use that to help us with rounding. Good job, Bronson. So we're going to be using different forms, the unit forms, to help us round to the nearest place value. And then we're going to be also using our place value chart to help us with understanding. So without further ado, let's get into lesson 7. I need to minimize my face so I can write on my screen better. So I'll see you later. Oh, got some fidgety stuff on my desk, sorry about that. All right, so now we are going to be using our place value chart. There's a template in our lesson 7 material, so please get that out for us. And then I'm going to zoom in to work on this chart. Perfect. Oops, went too far. All right, so we're going to decompose a 155 to multiple different units to help us round to the different place values. So let's go ahead and write 155. And now we're going to be looking at how to convert that down and decompose it. Well, we can decompose it by regrouping our 105 tens as 15 tens and 5 ones. And then we can also regroup that again by putting the 15 tens with the 5 ones as 155 ones. So I'm just going to take out those circles so it's a little easier to see. We can regroup this because remember, anytime we have more than 10 in a place value, we have to regroup them to the left. Now we're just kind of going backwards and decomposing them. Okay, so now that we have that, now we can think about comparing this, or rounding these numbers, not comparing, I'm sorry, to the nearest tens place. Well, let's go ahead and draw a number line on vertical number line on the left. Well, we know because we decomposed it that the lowest number of tens is 15 tens. Well, how many tens would be the rounding up? Well, one more 10 than 15 is 16 tens, right? And then our number is 155. So which way are we rounding? Well, 155 is going to be right in the middle. So anytime we are at the middle or the midpoint, we round up, right? So 155 is going to be approximately, this is a cool little symbol, it's like equal signs but with waves in them, 160 or 16 tenths. Okay, now I know you guys are using pencil, so it's not as easy to erase. So just move down into the next empty boxes because we used the top 3. So you guys should be having these last 2 boxes to use for our next example. But this time we're going to shift into some decimal places. So the rule is going to be the same of how we decompose and think about these numbers and use the vertical number line. The only thing that's different is we're changing the unit. Instead of tens and ones, we're using tenths and hundredths and thousands. So the rules of regrouping of tens to move to place values to the left and decomposing by regrouping to the right all stay the same no matter what place you're in. We're just working with parts of numbers now. So I would like us to represent 1 and 57 hundredths in our place value chart. And I want us to think about regrouping. Well, we can regroup by shifting this 1 and decomposing it back into its tenths. So really we have 15 tenths and 7 hundredths. Or if we did that one more time and regrouped again, we can shift this over to the hundredths place, right? And we could be left with 157 hundredths. Okay, so if we were to round this to the nearest hundredths, or I mean, sorry, to the nearest tenths, we could draw a vertical number line. And we know that if we're looking at the tenths, we know we're looking at 15 tenths and 16 tenths, right? The one above it, one above 15 is 16. So we're either rounding to 15 or we're going to round up to 16 tenths. Well, the midpoint between 15 tenths and 16 tenths would be, and I'm just going to write up here in my blank spot to help you visualize it, would be 15 tenths and 5 hundredths, because 5 is always the midpoint number, right? So 15 tenths plus 5 hundredths here. So, well, where would 15 tenths and 7 hundredths go then? Well, that would be above 15 tenths and 5 hundredths. So that means 1.57 is going to go round up to 16 tenths. And 16 tenths would also be written as 1.6, right? Because we'd regroup back this way. So we know 1.57 is approximately 1.6, or 1 57 hundredths is approximately 1 6/10 rounded to the nearest tenth. All right. So let's just go to a blank page in our notes and let's practice a few more. Let me back out so we can actually see. And now we're going to just try to be using the, you're going to have to just draw a place value chart to work with us. So quickly draw a place value chart. And there's our decimal. So go ahead and we got tenths, hundredths, thousandths, right? And then this would be ones and tenths. So let's go ahead and we're going to work on rounding for, actually let me change color so it's easier to see, 4 and 381 thousandths. And now this time we're going to round it to all the place values. We're going to round it to the nearest tens. We're going to round it to the nearest ones. We're going to round it to the nearest tenths. We're going to round it to the nearest hundredths. And we're going to round it to the nearest thousandths. So this is, we're going to be working down the line and rounding it to each place value. One thing I want you to think about, which number rounded or estimated is going to be the closest to the original number? Is it going to be the largest place value rounded gives us the closest number, or is it going to be the lower the place value, the closer to the original number will be? Which one will it be? We'll see at the end, but keep that in your mind as we're working on this. Well, when we're working on this, we're going to be decomposing to help us into unit forms to help us understand and help us to round to the place value we want. So rounding to the nearest tens, we don't have to decompose at all because we already have our ones. So thinking about our vertical number line chart. Oops, I don't really want that highlighter to look like it's showing a 1 in the tens place. So we're going to visualize our number line. And we know that we're looking at 4 ones. And what would be the rounding up of 4 ones? I'm sorry. I messed that up. We're rounding to the tens place first. So we're looking at, well, if there's nothing in the tens, we're looking for 0 tens. And what would be one more than 0 tens? Well, that would be 110. And our midpoint is always right in the middle, which would be 5 ones. Well, we have 4 ones, so that would be here on the place value or the number line, which means to round to the tens place, we're going to have 0 tenths or 0. Okay, well, let's quickly get rid of our number line. I'm just going to erase the, oh, that didn't really work. Let me get a fatter eraser. All right. Now we're going to round to the ones place. And, well, when we round to the ones place, we're looking at our tenths, the place to the right, to help us. So we are going to be looking at either 4 ones or 5 ones. But what would be the midpoint? Well, it will be 4 ones plus 5 tenths. Okay, so, well, we know that this is going to be 43 tenths. Oops, that's for the next problem. Sorry. Mr. Briggs, come on. All right, so, well, if we know the midpoint is 4 ones and 5 tenths, and we have 4 ones and 3 tenths, well, that's going to go below the midpoint, which means we're rounding down. So it would leave us with 4 ones. And if we're left with 4 ones, the answer would give us 4 when we round to the nearest ones place. All right, well, I'm going to erase that real quick so I have enough room to do the tenths place. And this is where I almost jumped ahead of us and decompose to the tenths place. So if we decompose our 4 ones into the tenths place, we're left with 43 tenths, 8 hundredths, and 4 ones. So now we need to round to the tenths place. And when we round into the tenths place, our lowest number on our vertical number line is going to be 43 tenths. And one above that will be 44 tenths. So what's the midpoint? Well, it's the bottom number, 43 tenths, plus, well, the midpoint number is always 5 of the next place value. So it would be 5 hundredths, and I'm just going to do 500 because I'm running out of space. So let's think about this. 43 tenths and 5 hundredths is the midpoint. Well, we have 43 tenths and 8 hundredths, so that means that's going to be above the midpoint, which means we are going to be rounding up, which will give us 49 tenths or 4.9 because we regroup back the other way, right? Oh man, look at that. I messed up. It should be 4.4, 4 and 4 tenths. Look how easy it is to be sloppy with your numbers and not read that the right way. One more than 43 tenths is 44 tenths. Now, I noticed my mistake because I looked back over into the place value chart and I was like, 49 tenths, that makes 0 sense to go from 43 to 49 tenths. Try to catch your mistakes like that. Nice job. All right, I'm going to quickly get rid of my number line and now draw another one. And we're going to do hundredths now. Well, hundredths. Well, we can decompose again. We can decompose these tenths into the hundredths place. So we should be working with 438 hundredths and 1,000th. So the bottom one would be 438 hundredths. Again, I'm just going to do hundredths like that. We'll make sure I do the THS so I don't get confused. And one more than 438 would be correct, 439 hundredths. And what would be the midpoint? Well, again, we take our bottom number, 438 hundredths, plus 5 of the place value to the right of it. Well, that would be 5 thousandths. Okay, so we have our vertical number line now. Now we're looking at our number, 438 and 1,000th. Well, 438 and 1 is smaller than 438 and 5. So it's going to be down here. So we know we're regrouping right like this. So that would be 438 hundredths. So I'm going to visualize where my decimal would go, and that would be 4 and 38 hundredths. All right, last one. And we're going to decompose into the thousandths. So this will mean that we have 4,381 thousandths. Well, if we have that, oh, actually, I just checked my notes. We're never going to be doing it to our thousandths place. So, but I just wanted to show you that you can decompose all the way down to the smallest number or smallest place value. So let's think. Our original number was 4.381 or 434 and 381 thousandths. So which number over on our left is closest to the original? Was it the largest place value, which was 0? Or was it the smallest place value that we rounded to, which was hundredths? Yeah, the smaller the place value that you round to, the more accurate your number will be. All right, I'm going to stop the recording now. We're going to move on to the problem set and see how we do there. All right, great job, guys.